'tis another... Is this thing dirty again? Monday, which means it's time for me to take out another model. I'm gonna probably show you that if I recorded that part, and if not, well, this is a little bit awkward. See, suction. This is what I'm talking about with suction. We've had so much suction, we could just hold on to that thing. This is Groundeffected. My name is your dad. Today's video is sponsored by Zez Studios. And continuing with Spider Month, we've got the Spider Punk. This is from Zez Studios. Obviously, otherwise that would be a weird intro to make without... never mind. The level of detail on this particular model is actually insane. Genuinely. The dude who sculpted this went very far out of his way. And as per usual, Zez's usual pre-supports saved the day for me, meaning I had one free evening to sit with my finger up my nose instead of having to support a model for the week. So you can trust in Zez's pre-supports. Also, another thing about Zez is that they cut their pieces in such a way that everything is paintable. In most cases, everything is literally, I'll show you for example on here, that whole grate comes off so you can paint the inside thingy, the little pizza on top of it comes off, and the entire friggin' speaker comes out so you can paint the casing of the speaker. Then you can obviously paint the back end of the speaker and the front end of the speaker and all the like woods and stuff, and then put it all inside there and then put the little grate over the top. Frickin' fantastic. I have made a little bit of a boo-boo, and I have printed some of these bottles in just normal resin, so I've sent them for print on clear resin because we need them to be clear. Other than that, I need to get freaking smashing because it is currently late, like nearly 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and video goes out on Thursday, meaning I've only got like 2 days and maybe a little bit to get this bad boy done. Let's just quickly get some stuff out the way here, and that is obviously the sponsor of this video, which as you know already is Zez Studios. And if you don't know anything about Zez, well, they make some absolutely incredible models, and these models are sculpted to the highest of details, as well as amazing incredible cuts, and all pre-supported too, which is obviously that's a doozy for the top of it. Look at this freaking models for this next month. This is exactly what you can be expecting from Zez, as well as obviously their welcome pack and things, and their motto is to be bringing quality over the quantity. And when it comes to Zez models, this is exactly what they do. It is quality work, amazing, incredible models. So of course there is a link in the description down below. Go and click on that link, go join up, get yourself the Spider Punk, get yourself the Galactic, whatever you want to do. Just go get them. Now is your time. And now that the formalities are over, let's just quickly thank Zez for sponsoring this video. Let's paint. Can you focus? And now that the formalities are over, let's thank Zez for sponsoring this video. And let's paint this friggin' Spider Punk, shall we? I almost forgot. I got sent this from a gallery. This is the new Aventus. Let's open this up and let's just quickly have a little look-see. Now, I've got to be totally honest. I'm not really the one to do the whole hard sell thing. And I don't care if I make sales of this or not. But I do get sent this stuff from time to time. But this is what you get in the box. I'll just quickly show you what's on the back in case you wanted to see that for whatever reason you wanted to see it. But it tells you all the things about it. This machine does come with a 0.2 needle and a 0.4 needle. I don't care about the 0.2. That's way too small for me. I'm just worried about the 0.4, which is closer to what I use, which is actually a 0.5. That's the 0.4 needle, as I suspected. It means that I'm going to have to make some adjustments before I even get started, and that will be obviously the nozzle and everything in this. I have got it open because I need to just quickly try to change the needle. That's a very interesting looking nozzle. Wow, Wow, that's so different. That's why it feels weird. That's got a little ball that presses down on the valve. That's why that feels so weird. I understand now. Armed with my new airbrush and some Kaleido primer, I'm going to put prime, obviously, on this model, and I will start out just by spraying a black over everything. And at first, when I used this airbrush, it felt pretty smooth. Everything felt as it should have felt, but I did kind of have a bit of issues with some small details a little bit later on, but if I can get to it, I will try and show you the part where I did. If not, just know that the airbrush is an airbrush, and it worked alright for me. I did struggle with fine details, but I do think I need a little bit more time of working with this different style airbrush, at least. I want to quickly mention that because there is some venom on the base, it's really easy for me to use some UV resin and just paint that over those little venom bits and then cure them in place so that you cannot see the seam of where this base was joined together. I obviously put a black primer on it and then use some white to paint a zenithal over most of these things. The police shield needs to obviously have a yellow, a massive piece of yellow on it, and so to do that I needed to set that up by painting it solid white at first, or at least close to that in the first place. I'm going to quickly set up this base as well by putting a zenithal on and using a contrast paint over the top of it in the form of a brown color so that it looks kind of somewhat like wood before I even start painting it to look like wood. I figured while stuff was waiting to dry, and I've been spraying over that side, I've got things all over the place. I'm using my iPad to print out some stuff, so I figured I would show you what I'm doing for the meantime. Now, I was given a couple of little PNGs to use for this stuff, but I'm going to probably have to make up some other stuff, like there's certain things that just aren't there, like the cans and things like that. But that's okay, we'll figure that out later. But for now, I wanted to show you what I got. So there is a bunch of things all over this base that are basically different. They've got, there's no ways that I could paint that. I mean, I could paint that, but I just can't be bothered to paint that, and I don't think anybody wants to do that. So I'm going to do a little bit of between things. So I've got to put this poster all torn up over here, but I'm going to get that printed. I'm going to get all those little badges for on his freaking shirt printed, and then that thing printed. But we're going to have to figure out how to do this because I need to paint white underneath where the white goes, and I need to paint around the black. We'll figure that out later. But for now, this is how it looks while I'm working on this thing. I'm busy working on a bunch of different things in the meantime, whilst also watching Better Call Saul on my phone. That's because the computer is used up for doing computer. That's less electricity, and it costs more to have that. So let's not get into the semantics of it, but I need to get cracking over here. I'm just going to quickly cut this out and see if it fits, and then I'm going to carry on painting all the rest of the colors. I'm convinced I spent way too much time on this first article that is on the base. And this is the amplifier. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But anyway, it is basically a very complicated and detailed little piece of accessory that has ever been on a base that I've ever done in my life. Literally, there is so much detail on this, and the sculptor did such an incredible job of making all those details stand out. I obviously had to spend all my time painting it, but at some point I needed to make sure that I brought myself back to reality and realized that I'm gonna have to reel back some of the details on certain things as we go along. Now, I used a Mornfang brown to paint all the brown sections on this bottom section of the base, and then I used Agrax Earthshade and I sprayed that into the crevasses, well, basically all the shadows, and it by itself, it just pooled in the crevasses, making the wood look a little bit more like wood. I painted a lighter wood color on the drumsticks that are on the back of this base, and then I set about painting all the separate colors of the cables that are on the base as well. I used a dark black contrast paint to put some shadows into the amplifier and also the grate that goes on the front of the amplifier, and now I can put that yellow in that I was needing to do on this shield. Now obviously if you paint yellow and the undercoat for this yellow is actually black, it's gonna look green and it's gonna look terrible. And I already noticed that that was coming through. I should have put pink down at first, but I can save this by just using Eandon yellow in some of the shadowed areas. Now I'm gonna take some of this Mournfang brown and I'm gonna go back to those wooden bits that I painted earlier and dry brush over the top of all of them. I'm also gonna use some brown sand over the base area. This didn't work out quite as well as I thought it would, and so I'm pretty sure I ended up using new wood over the top of that later on. I put a dark silver over the inside of the speaker section of this amplifier, and I also dry brushed that over the back section where the magnet and also the back of the speaker is. As I said, the detail on this particular amp is just... the detail on everything is crazy on this model, but in this amp itself there was so much detail that I got lost in it, and I ended up spending an entire day painting just this amplifier alone, and so I ended up having to crawl back some of that time later. But for now, let's just deal with the amplifier, because I did a really good job of it, I think, anyway. And I used, obviously, a bunch of different colors to paint this. A lot of this stuff is pretty much hidden inside, but you can still see it a little bit through the back. And so I figured it makes sense for me to put a little bit of effort into those things, even if it was a simple but mostly effective effort that I put into all these little things. I used also, by the way, some gloss blacks and some matte blacks to try and get some different textured colors out of things. I put like gloss on the inside because I figured it would shine a little bit better, and I put a matte on the outside. I used dark silver to paint all the buttons and knobs and everything that is in front of the amplifier, and I also used some brighter silver as well, which is from Ammo by Meg, and I painted some of the screws and nuts and bolts and things. Now on the grate in front there is a couple of logo stuff, and to do this I'm going to use some deck tan. Obviously, that's obviously the color that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use that because of one very specific reason. Deck tan, it's not a full coverage color, but it covers about 50 times better than any whites that I've used. To be fair, I haven't tried Monument Hobbies one, so if you're going to mention that, well, I'm sorry, I haven't tried it, so I can't even tell you if it covers better than that. But I do know that deck tan does a really good job of covering, but at the same time it's not white, which I think is very important for painting a model. If it was too white, things would look stark and crazy and it just wouldn't look right. So I really like deck tan as a color, and I use that as the undercoat obviously for most of the things. Like for example putting red down, I need to have a nice like bright color to put red down over the top of, and same with yellow. Going over white or even deck tan in this case is just the best way of doing it. I use the side of my brush to edge highlight basically the raised letters, and once I was done with that I put a little piece of tape over the top of it so that I could mask off a dead straight line going through the center of this little logo thing, and I very carefully painted the edges of it, and voila, we have a fantastic looking little logo. I painted one of the buttons with red, but I painted obviously deck tan first, then red, and then I used some dark silver around the corner little protection pieces on this amplifier. And as you can see, this amplifier is really starting to come together, and it really looks cool for what it is. And also I'm pretty sure that just by the length of time that this is of the video itself and the rest of time that everything else was pretty much painted in, you can tell that I put more effort into this little thing, which is the dumbest thing I could have done. I should have spent a little bit less time on this, and I would have had a little bit more time, because I'm going to give up something in the end of this video that I think is really important to this model. But we have to accept it, because if I didn't do it, the video wouldn't be out on time, and I'm stuck on the fact that I refuse to miss my upload time. The fact that I've chosen Thursday as my day, 5 o'clock in my time, it's just what it is. It is what it is. I don't care what anyone says. I've chosen that time. I choose to stick to that time. I will never change that time as long as I can possibly help it. And I've done so for over 5 years. So I quickly went next door and I had the lady who has a printer with sticker paper, because I have a printer but I don't have sticker paper, and I had her print me a bunch of stickers, because I'm just going to need to stick some things rather than doing decals, because it would mean I'd have to paint white over certain things, but I'll be honest, not all of these are going to work as stickers. And for example, like, I'm not going to be able to wrap that Venom thing around a bent screen, but I can definitely wrap things around round areas as long as it goes all the way around, which is an easy enough wrap to do. So it just makes sense with white stuff because I don't want to have to cut out anything. I probably should have just got some white decal transfer slide water, whatever the frick the stuff is called. But anyway, so this is a sticker. It is literally a sticker. And I'm now going to stick this over that spot, meaning that I've saved myself the whole hassle of having to freehand that. Yay! And while I appreciate there is a bit of work to get these things to be the right size, it's as simple as I just put them in a program, I size them like a medium, a small, I make a bunch of sizes until I print that out on normal paper, then I check the size, I test the size. Let me show you. This is my print on normal paper, this is just plain normal paper, and I tested the size, and once I was happy with the size, we're good to go. Although I may just... No, it's the right size. Getting the size is difficult. That's the most difficult part, and finding the images. These I literally just searched up craft beer labels because I figured they'd probably be craft beer. That's what punks are into, isn't it? They probably not. But I'll be totally honest, they probably are, because this whole entire base is full of all the cliches. Cigarettes, booze, and Venom. Now things are going to seem to speed up a little bit here, I think. Just mainly because I finally realized that by day 2, and I'd only just about got this amplifier done, that I was going to need to pull my finger out my backside, or there was going to be some issues with getting this model done on time. So I briefly took some time to stick some stickers on because this was an easy win for me, and then I moved back onto that base again because I was not happy with how the wood looked. I don't want it to be overdone, and I don't want these edges to be super bright, otherwise it's going to take too much away from the rest of the model. There is a lot going on in this model, and if you go overboard, you will end up finding that you've just put too much detail, and that detail is going to overshadow all the other details, and you kind of want everything to be subtly detailed enough to not just overdo everything. I painted some of the Venom on this base using that gloss black that I spoke about earlier, and while that was drying, I quickly set about working on the shield and also the drumsticks, and there are a lot of small little additional pieces that go onto the base that needed extra work done to them rather than just a simple paint and go, and so I obviously needed to spend my time doing this. I kind of put this sticker on these drumsticks a little bit skew, but we won't talk about it, and if you don't look at it, then it'll be fine. I used some orcish green, no, it's orc green or orc flesh green, one of those 5 that I named, and I painted the bottles, which I eventually ended up printing in a transparent resin. I used this X22 and I used the X20 or whatever it is, that is the thinner, to go with it, and I will tell you straight up now, do not do this. Just buy... Honestly, I ran out of the clear lacquer that you buy, the cheap one in the spray can. Just buy that one. It's the safest, bestest thing to do. This is what the bottles look like, or at least one of them look like, before I moved on to quickly trying to paint the rest of this base section, because the panic was starting to set in at this point, and it was getting a little bit late in the time that I had available to paint this model. So we're going to just move on to quickly masking off a section. You know that I'm panicking if I'm using masking tape, because it's the only thing I would do. The only time I'm going to do that is when I'm starting to crap myself a little bit. And so you're going to miss a couple of things. I'll be totally honest. I was filming things, trying not to film. I missed things. If you put a piece of coal in my bum during making of this model, a diamond would have been formed due to the pressure of me squeezing so hard. Basically, this little bottle, by the way, I want to quickly mention, I stuck that sticker over that bottle, and it was really difficult. So I cut the sticker a little bit up, and then I used some resin over the top of it to kind of cover up the messed up sticker that I cut up, because I cut it like crap. Like, it looked like absolute horrible dog poo-poo, and so I used some resin over the top of it, cured that, and then I could quickly paint that Venom back over it, which meant you would never see that I'd messed up that bottle. On the little sign on the police thing, I used deck tan to paint, obviously, over the top of that. Once that was fully dried, I took some Griff Charger Grey and I sprayed that in the shadowed area of that white writing, so it wasn't just so stark on its own like that. I took some dark silver and some black, and I mixed these two together to give me a kind of slightly blackish shiny metal. I don't really know how else to explain it other than that. And I used that to paint around the rim edge, and also this, whatever the little thing is in the front of it, and also the little window that I should have probably printed this thing in clear. There is a lot of things I should have done with this model, and as you know, hindsight is 2020. So let's just leave it at that, and we'll just carry on and make do with what we've done, because we have done it, we have to deal with it. So let's just move on and try to deal with it as we go. I used some of that dark silver to rim around the edges of the TVs as well, and then I set myself the task of painting all the Venom on this base, which, I'll be totally honest with you, was a ball ache, but not as much of a ball ache as painting Lance, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. For now, I'm just going to leave you watching me struggle to paint all this Venom. Once most of the Venom was done, I'm pretty sure halfway through doing the Venom, I kind of just got bored of painting it, and I moved on to trying to get other stuff done. So I used the stickers that I had made, and I stuck them over the beer cans. These little stickers sort of didn't fit at first. I just trimmed them down a little bit and ended up sticking them around, and they luckily just about fit, which is very helpful. The fact that they ended up fitting in the end. And I then started to piece together this base, and putting all these little bits together, the more I put it together, the more I realized how each and every little thing just adds to the level of detail on this base. Like, this whole thing has got some serious thought put into it, and the amount of work put into sculpting this thing is immense. So I've always been one to test my limits. I think I'm testing these a little bit too much this time. It's currently 6:30 in the evening, Tuesday evening, and all I have got is a base, of which is not completely done because I need to still do the TVs at the back and also the little pizza that goes on the top. But what you may notice is that my main model hasn't even been primed yet, so that's fantastic. I've spent 2 days painting the base, and I've now got 1 day left to not only paint the entire main character, but also to make the video. Fantastic! I'm going to be honest though, the base is looking freaking cool. There is still obviously the TVs to do, but I'm going to figure that out tomorrow. I can't be bothered with figuring it out now. I need to get some color on this main model, because worst case, I don't put those things on and we still have a video. Best case, I spend half a day putting those things on and we don't have a video because there's no model. So yeah, let me just do the model. So looking at the timeline of my video, there was about 14 to 15 minutes of me just basically painting an amplifier. Sure, I put the intro of the video in that and whatever. 15 minutes or so was painting the amplifier. We're at 23 minutes at this point, and we've done the rest of the base. But this video is like 30 minutes long or something like that, and we haven't even started painting the spider. So we've got literally 10 minutes, or 7 minutes should I say, to actually paint the spider. And obviously we're going to start out by just giving it a black primer on everything. I'm going to then take some white and paint over, for example, all the red things as white as I can possibly make them, leaving some shadows obviously, and then I'm going to paint over the blue things as well, because it makes the most sense to do this. That way I'll get the brightest color over the top of these pieces as I possibly can. When it comes to painting the red of the spider, I'm going to just try to keep things simple. No more experimenting, no more fancy things. We're just going to paint red ink over the top of everything. And because of that zenithal, you can already see that there is some shape taking place to the shadows. While that's drying, I'm going to quickly smash on some skeleton horde onto the strap that's going to hold his guitar on his back. And then I'm going to take some medium blue and paint that over his pants. And I'm pretty sure I went home after I'd done that so that I could have a sleep, because I needed to sleep at this point. But I didn't sleep. What I did was half cut this video at that time, and then came in the next day to deal with this model, which, I'm going to be totally honest, was a mild panic. Let's just say a mild panic, because there was definitely panic. Don't actually think it was as mild as I'm trying to explain it. But either way, there was panic ensuing when I came in the next day. This is Wednesday, and the day that I'm voiceovering this video as well. By the way, it is now 8 o'clock at night. I'm still in the studio because this took me all day. Literally all day. And that's probably quite fast compared to what most people would paint like. But I genuinely, I thought I was not going to make it. I honestly thought that this was not going to ever happen. because there is just so much to do on this model. Speaking of what I have to do, paint the knee pads. Those are dark silver. They probably don't have to be silver, but I used dark silver. I figured it was a good color before this. I also used some deck tan in the little stripes in between as well, but we'll get to that in a bit. I used some gray greeny color. It's like a dark gray basically to paint his belt. This is pretty simple, just a solid flat color. It didn't need much more than that. And then I used some silver over the top of that to actually paint all the little rivets and things like that. This is where I used that deck tan to paint in the tiny little gaps between his knee things. I'm not going to show you all of them because it would just take so long and the video would be hours long if I showed you everything. By the way, I do need to paint 2 layers at least of this, and I'm pretty sure I settled on just painting 3 layers of it in the end, and I didn't need to do anything else to shading it. You can shade it if you want to, but in my opinion it's not necessary to shade that. This is the part where I painted the silver over the little buckle and sparky bit things over the belt that he has, because obviously he's a punk, so there is going to be a lot of these sparky things, and they're a little bit annoying to paint, I'm not going to lie, but they are there and you need to paint them. I used some deck tan to paint his shoes, and I started out by using a very dry brush and just kind of like rubbing the brush edge over all the stitching on the shoes themselves. Once I was done with that, I took the paint and added a bit more water to it so it flowed a little bit better, and painted all the white areas nice and solid. What I didn't show you here though is painting the black, and there is a black line that goes through. As long as you don't put any shading, you can paint that black line, and if you make any mistakes, you can just come back with the deck tan and paint back over any of the mistakes that you made. Annoyingly, I didn't show you that, but that little black line really makes the shoe look like the shoe once it is painted in. I used also some new wood to paint in the undersole. At first I tried Orcish Domus because I thought it should be pinkish, but it shouldn't be. It should be this color, the color of a basketball in my opinion. And I basically just painted this over the inside of the sole of his foot. This will give it a little bit more depth so that it looks like I paid more attention to the details on this model. I glued this left leg in because I figured it's just going to be easier that way, just to make this whole model. Honestly, I had no time to think about anything else. Also, at this point is when you can see me painting his torso section of the suit, and for this I started out painting blue but realized that it'd be quicker for me to actually paint the deck tan areas of the white lines that go around his suit first, and then come back and cut back in with the blue, because what I was doing on the one of the previous parts that I was painting like this, I was painting the blue first, then putting the deck tan, and then coming back and cutting black with the blue anyway, because the deck tan sometimes doesn't behave how you want it to be. If your paint is a little bit thinner, it will flow a bit too much. If it's too thick, it doesn't flow as well, and you can't always be perfect with this. No one is perfect with this unless you're perfect with this, and in which case, well then, you need a naughty badge, and I don't have any for you, but if you licked your thumb and stuck it on your forehead, you would then have a naughty badge, and congratulations, because you can paint perfectly. I can't, and so this is the reason why I chose to do it this way around. It meant that I could make things nice and tidy, but it also meant that I would save probably 3 minutes, and that 3 minutes makes a difference over each part. I'm going to do the exact same procedure for the arms, and the reason why you don't see the other arm is because I painted that first, and that's also the reason why I knew that it was better to do the deck tan first before doing the blue. I used the same grey that he used for his belt over his awesome little wristbands and his armband as well, and once that was solidly painted and dry, by the way, I then took some silver and painted the little raised pieces and the sparks. There are some studs and some sparks on it because, of course, once again, it is a punk Spider-Man, and you can't have punk without the sparks. That's just the rules. I don't make the rules. I'm just here painting the model. I'm going to take some medium blue and I'm going to dry brush that over his jacket. Now, hopefully I showed you me painting the jacket earlier, and if I didn't, well, I'm very sorry for that, and I cannot remember what color I used, so we'll just move on. I took some deck tan and I dry brushed that using the same brush that I used the medium blue in at first, so this is not actually deck tan, and as you can see, it is a very, very bright blue. I then changed dry brushes so that I could actually have deck tan, and I used that over the frayed edges of all of this denim because it is a denim jacket, and so thus forth you need some frayed edges. I'm going to use that same grey that I used for his belt and armbands to paint this top little patch piece that is on top. When I look at the reference image, it's a little bit bluer than this. but I'm accepting this color. I'm okay with it. I took some black and mixed it into that gray and painted the little spider on his back. And after I was done with that, while I was waiting for it to dry, I quickly painted the silver sparks on the top of his shoulders. I then used some Drakenhof Nightshade to spray into the crevasses and shadows on the jacket in order to get a little bit more definition out of it and help to make and sell that denim effect. I took some deck tan and painted over the raised edges of the black piece, Spider-Man piece on his back. Words are hard at this point. This is a 30-minute video. This is actually ridiculous. Who even makes videos this long? At this point, I might as well make a freaking movie. But let's just carry on and do some lines. This is the part of the day where the panic was properly setting in, because at first it felt like I could do these lines alright, it won't be too bad, until about 2 hours into doing the lines I realized that maybe I'm gonna struggle with this. By the way, I do want to quickly mention that Zez has a different option and version of this where the lines are inside and the lines are outside. My version has the lines raised, which arguably I think actually worked in my favor for this particular model. But if you prefer the lines to be inverted and inside so that you're painting in the model rather than outside, well, then there is a version of that as well, obviously, and he did tell me to tell you that, so I'm telling you that. I want to quickly mention that painting lines like this, there is no way I can tell you. Just find something to watch or listen to. Find a comfortable seat, because my seat was hurting my ass. And also, just don't push yourself. If you're feeling like it's getting too much, put it down, walk away, have a cup of tea or whatever you have in the country that you live in, and just take a break, because it started to hurt my hand. But like we know, I have to get my video out, and I'm determined if not anything, and so I just stuck through the pain and just kept going at it. The eyes were a very simple, solid paint. I didn't put any shading in them. Like I said, at this point I'm literally crapping myself. Like, I have no idea whether I'm going to get this done, and there is nothing worse for my ego than to fail at doing something. So I would rather do the thing at least close to 90% done rather than have nothing. I can always add that shadow in later if I wanted to, but if I don't get the video done, I can never go back and have a video when there was no video in the first place. So this is where we're at. I quickly stuck some of those stickers, which I cut out, by the way, very carefully using my scissors, onto the jacket, and then I can start putting this model together, putting his arms in, the jacket on, obviously the other arm as well, and put the head on this model. But we're still not done, and this is another sacrifice that I have to make, and this is on the guitar. I need to paint the webbing on the front of it, but it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I cannot do it. I thought about doing it the whole time while painting the guitar, but I just realized that at 8 o'clock at night, if I do this, I might as well just throw my kids in the dumpster and never see them again, because at this point I'm only going to get home at like 12 o'clock tonight, and I don't want that to happen. So I need to get my voiceover done, and in order to get that done, I need to just take the easy way out, and I can always paint that on later. Luckily, you look at the front of the model when it's on your shelf, and you don't look at the back, and so no one will ever know except for you when there's a spin around shot in about 20 seconds of this model. Either way, I started putting all the rest of these parts done onto the model, like putting the guitar on his back and the straps in place, and I can call this one done. Now, as I record the voiceover of this last portion of the video, it is very important to know that I haven't even taken the hero shots. These are the shots that you're looking at right now. And my backside hurts. It's numb, my fingers are sore, and I just want to go home and have some dinner. But what I can say is that this incredible model looks absolute. I'm over the moon with it. I love the detail on this model. I love the way it looks, and I might at some point, if I find some time in my life, come back to add those extra details that I had mentioned that I missed out on. But I'm really happy with how this model came out, and I love the way that it looks. So if you are wanting to paint this model, well, good luck. Spare yourself a lot more time than I gave myself, because otherwise you're just going to be sad that you didn't put all that effort in the end. If you are going to paint this model, then obviously you're going to need this model, and the only way to get this model is if you go down into the description and then click on the Zez link so that you can go and get this model. Of course, I want to say a massive thank you to Zez for sponsoring this video, and while we're on the point of thanking people, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who watches my videos, because without you guys, there'd be no reason to make videos, I guess. And the time that we're saying thank you is probably an important time for me to say thank you to those Patreons. The Patreons who actually keep my videos and channel alive. It's without them, the lights wouldn't blind my eyeballs. They are the biggest help to me. If you want to help this channel and make sure that when I'm pinching diamonds, I feel good about it with the lights on, well then go join my Patreon. That will help me to pinch more diamonds, and pinching diamonds is the thing we want. Of course, if you're watching this video on the toilet, you need to wash your hands. And it has been 35 minutes, so I'm going to shut my damn mouth up now and tell you the thing that I tell you at the end of my video, which is, if you didn't like anything you saw in this video, I don't care. And after 35 minutes, you probably should have f***ed off a long time ago.